Hey guys, it's Alyssa here, and today I shall be doing the bookshelf tag. I have been waiting to do this tag for so long, but for so long I didn't have any bookcases to do it for. And I finally realized I can now do it. So here I am doing it. I will link the original creator of it down below. Let's just get right into it. Let's change the angle a little bit. The first question is, how many bookcases do you have? I have 3. I have these 2, which are tall. They're like 5 shelf bookcases. And I have a small 3 shelf one that I keep in my room. This is in a separate like spare room that we have. And my TBR shelf, which is like a small 3 shelf one, is in my room. The next question is, how many books are on your shelves? And that number, I actually had to count, and it's like a 2-part question. It's like, how many books do you have, or how many do you think you had? I couldn't give a guess because I had not counted in so long. Total between TBR and Red, I only have 236. Now, as you can see, there are some books on these bottom shelves here. I'm not counting them because they're like either community books or books I'm not planning on reading. So I'm not counting them in this number. Like, this is a sewing book. That's not counted in my number. And I have a bunch of cookbooks down here you can't see. And there's some other things along here that I won't be reading that aren't counted in this number. The next question is, how do you organize your shelves? As I stated before, in my room, my bedroom, I have my TBR shelf, and because I have so few TBR books, the actual bottom shelf of that is actually DVDs. But that's irrelevant. How I organize these bad boys is the very top shelf is middle grade / young readers books. Then it transitions. I have a couple series that I consider young teens, like young YA, and then you transition here into regular YA, and then it's kind of, I think this is by author. Yeah, this is by author. And then I have it, once I get to YA, I have it author, and this is kind of like my favorite shelf. And then here, this shelf right here, is all of my paperbacks / standalones. And then in the corner over here, which you can't quite see, this is all of like my very small collection of graphic novels and such. That all the way up there is where my classics start, and it's the first shelf and the second shelf. Bring you back down to a normal height now. This shelf right here is where things get weird. So obviously all of this side is middle grade, children's, YA books. This is all dedicated to my classics and my regular fiction. So on this shelf, it kind of starts with like older fiction that aren't quite classics, that are like 30s, like 1930s, around that general era. And then it transitions into a couple of like reimaginings of classics. And then I have my few poetry books, go into a little bit of nonfiction right here, these 3 books. And then this isn't supposed to be on top, but you're seeing it up top. And then we transition into my mass markets, because that's just what looked nice. And then a couple of regular like fiction books, and then these are all mystery thrillers. Then this bottom shelf right here is pretty easy. It's just the Hunger Games, and then all of my Janet Ivanovich books. The next question is, what's the oldest book on your shelf? Now, I really don't know, because when I started seriously book collecting / booktube, I didn't really keep an account of like what I have, and I have some books that I had before I started booktube. So I think the oldest book that I own is Switched by Amanda Hocking. This is a book I read in my very early teens. I was trash for it. Have been actually debating doing a little bit of a reread of this because it's been so long, and I was absolutely in love with the series. Next question is, what's the newest book on your bookshelf? And it's actually in the other room, but I'm not gonna go and get it. I will just direct you to my most recent video because I'm not getting up. I recently only purchased like 3 books not that exciting. What is the longest book on your bookshelf? And that is this bind up of all 7 Jane Austen novels. It's like over 1,000 pages, like 1,100 pages. I own it for pure aesthetic reasons. I'm never gonna read the novels out of this. Actually, the font isn't, ooh, you can't even see that. The font isn't too terrible, but it's obviously way too heavy to even hold. But yeah, that's the longest book that I have on my shelf. I probably shouldn't have done this because it's technically like multiple different novels in it, but that's what I got and I'm not getting up again, so that's the answer. And what is the shortest book on your bookshelves? And that is When We Were Very Young by A.A. Milne. I always don't know how to pronounce that. This, I think, is a total of 100 pages. Next question is, what is the predominant genre on your bookcase? Now, I know that people don't consider age range to be genres, but definitely middle grade and YA are my predominant like age ranges that I have. And then after that, I really have no clue. I want to say somewhere in like the fantasy sci-fi realm. I don't really know. The next question is, have you done a tour? And no, I have not. The only thing that I have done is I did a little while ago, now a while ago probably, I did a TBR shelf tour, but I'm not doing a bookshelf like in-depth tour where I pull out every book just because I personally don't watch them, so I'm not going to make them. And the next question was actually kind of like a little bit of a thing that you can do, and that was to go on a random number generator and to pick that book off of your shelf and talk about it. So the way I counted was I counted my TBR shelf first, and then I did this shelf, and then I started all the way at the top on that one, and the book that I ended up with was Antony and Cleopatra by William Shakespeare. This is the No Fear Shakespeare version that I have, just because that's really the only version of Shakespeare that I own. Not much to say. I bought these a really long time ago, probably 5 years ago from a friend, and I have not read this yet. It is it's in my classics TBR jar, so maybe in the near future I'll get to this. So the next 2 questions is, do you have any fan merch / decorations on your bookshelves? And obviously you can see I have some, but you can't really see all of it from this angle. And the next question after that is to show you the bookcases. So I'm gonna do that now. I will see you back here for the end of the video. First, we're gonna start like at the very, very top. I have teapots because I'm very into tea stuff. And my very first shelf, which is my classics. First, we'll talk about the little decorations. I have 2 pot figures of Tiana because I love her. She's like probably one of my favorite Disney princesses. And I have a teacup here because I'm really into tea stuff. So first shelf is mixture of classics, and then I have 2 editions of Anne of Green Gables. Eventually probably gonna get rid of one of them, but yeah. My Nancy Drew books and my Winnie the Pooh book. Next shelf, the little pop figures. This is all Alice in Wonderland themed. I'm really into Alice in Wonderland, and my Alice in Wonderland copy that I own is on this shelf, so I figured it was appropriate. It's a little messed up because I had to move things around, but normally that's kind of how they're stationed. That's the shelf. This is a lot of like my classics. As you can see, I own 3 or 4 editions of Jane Eyre. Just in case you're wondering, I'm trash for that book. And you will also notice I own multiple editions of Little Women and Jane Austen and Sherlock Holmes. Don't know why. Also 2 editions of Wuthering Heights, which I still have not read. So, yeah. So, that's me. The next shelf, the little decorations that I have, this little cupcake thing that kind of like opens. I bought it forever ago. I don't know. I just have it. A little wire teacup. And then my gal from Golden Girls. And then, of course, Barb, because Barb. And then my TBR jar, a little Teacup, which is one of my favorites. It's so freaking pretty. And that's just kind of the overview. I did describe how it was set up before, but there it is. The next one, decoration wise, I have a little honey pot, a little teacup, a thing that says there is evil in everyone. The first step to forgiving someone is to recognize the evil in ourselves. A friend made that for me years ago when we were in a book club together. And then because I have one of my Winnie the Pooh books here, I have my little Winnie the Pooh merch set up here. So that's that shelf. Okay, so this is the top of the next shelf. This is all of my bookmarks, 2 teacups, because I have several sets that match. We're gonna move this bookmark thing out of the way, and yeah, so a lot of my Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys Sewer Mysteries I mentioned a lot, E.D. Baker, Series of Emotion Events, and then this is kind of where it transitions into middle grade-y, and then like my younger, move that. This is where it transitions from middle grade into more like young teen area. Don't know what that is. That's, I think, my pick for February of my TBR jar. And 2 matching teacups. This is my favorite shelf to look at because it features some of my favorite books of all time, if you can't tell. And then we have just some pretty little teacups, again, ones that match, and obviously it has my bays, not so much bays, but bays nonetheless. And then this is kind of like more my hodgepodgey shelf. It still features some of my faves, but they're my faves that are in paperback, and again, 2 matching teacups, and yeah, that's it. And that's it for my regular bookshelves. I'll give you a quick tour of my TBR shelf. So sorry for the terrible lighting change, but my room has terrible lighting in it. Just quick, the little figurines that I have. I have a little cat reading that my aunt gave to me. I have a spoon that I should probably try to polish that has a little quote on it. And it's really cool. I really love it. A friend gave it to me. I love it. Here's an empty jar that I don't know what to do with. A little Merida crocheted thing, a little, what's that thing called? Hourglass thing? Sand thing? Whatever that's called. I also have a little Tiana, little crocheted thing as well that's supposed to kind of go right there, but she fell earlier. I kind of have my TBR organized by size more than anything else, and then hardcover sizes, just because that's kind of what looks nice, and I have so few. Random No Fear Shakespeare of Othello is there because I'm planning on reading that this month, so I put that there. But yeah, that's it for my TBR shelf. It's much less impressive than my regular shelves. So that was the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this tag. I've been wanting to do it for so long. It was fun to do, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope I shall see you in the next one. Bye.